Namaste, Green Wave. It's Nassimi, and today we are going to practice self-care. It is a way to help our body, help our mind so that we stay healthy because we're not just long branch, we are strong branch. So this is a way that we can stay strong in our body, strong in our mind when we practice self-care. So one fun way you can practice self-care is by creating your very own eye pillow. So I created this eye pillow using rice and lavender and a knee-high sock. So I'm going to show you today how you can create your very own eye pillow for relaxation, because when our brain can rest, we can do our best. So what I did was I took a knee-high sock and I tied a knot at the bottom by the heel. And then in a measuring cup, I measured 1 cup of the rice. And I also infused the rice with dried lavender. So what I did, I found this at Trader Joe's. They have the lavender dryer bags, and that's what a lavender plant looks like. They have the dried lavender as your, dryer bag when you're doing your laundry. So I opened it up and sprinkled it in, and check it out. This is what the dried lavender looks like. So it kind of looks like purple rice, but that is lavender. Again, lavender is a plant that helps us to keep our body calm and cool. It has a beautiful smell to it. It's very safe for kids to use. It's mostly known as the lavender essential oil. That's where the essential oil actually comes from. But in my eye pillow, I've infused it with the dried lavender. And then I can even add, a couple drops of lavender in my eye pillow to really make it nice and calm and cooling. So I have a box here in case it spills. This is my box filled with the rice and the dried lavender. And then very carefully and mindfully, I'm going to pour the rice into the sock. And again, using math as a form of mindfulness, we measured. So again, 1 cup, and it was easier to pour using the Pyrex dish to pour it in. So I'm going to carefully and mindfully pour in the 1 cup of the rice and lavender. And it's also a nice cooling treat if you put this in the freezer. So sometimes it's gonna pop out, but if you keep it in the freezer, it'll be nice and cool to cool down your body, cool down your mind as we practice self-care. So now shake it down. And then to add in my essential oil. So I'm going to add in some lavender to make it nice and calming. I'm going to carefully put a drop of lavender too in the eye pillow. Another nice, sweet, calming smell is ling ling. That's another type of flower. So I'm also going to add in a few drops of the ling ling. So it smells extra calming. And it's almost going to feel like a squishy or a poppet or a stress ball. And then I just make sure all of the rice is down, and then I'm going to tie a knot. And then here I have my very own eye pillow, lavender infused. And again, I got creative. And not only did I use rice, but I used the dryer bags from Trader Joe's to cut open to infuse it with the dried lavender flower. You can find different dried flowers at any local health food store, the grocery store. If you didn't have rice, you could fill it with lentils. You could fill it with Orbeez. You could fill it with sugar or salt. So you could get creative as to what will the type of tool that you'll fill the eye pillow with. You can make as many of these as you'd like. I find the knee-high socks to be the best because they're a little longer to tie the knot. But if you were to have a smaller size sock, just add less rice. I used, again, 1 cup of the rice because if I filled it anymore, it would be too thick and it would be hard to tie. So a few different ways to use your eye pillow. If you were sitting at your desk, you could use this to rest at your desk. So if this was my desk, I could bring my forehead to the eye pillow to take a few nice deep breaths. It smells so calming, just like the lavender and the ling ling. If I was laying down, I could have it over my eyes. So I would close my eyes and rest my arms by my side and use my eye pillow just like this. I could also use it as a little neck pillow. I could put it under my neck. I could also use it as a self-care breathing tool. So I could put it on my belly and notice how my belly goes up and my belly goes down. Because no matter where you go, you always have your breath. And your breath is a great tool for self-awareness. So it brings us back into our body. It makes us feel more grounded. So you could also use it as a breathing tool. You could also simply keep it in on the palm of your hand. You could make more. So there's one on each hand. But you can get creative with how you choose to use your eye pillow. Again, you could infuse it with all different types of essential oil scents. Health is wealth. Again, this is a great self-care practice. Another way you can create your eye pillow is to recycle masks. So if you have a face mask, you can actually recycle it or upcycle it to be your own eye pillow. So here is a mask that I recycled. All right, that I no longer needed. If you have the one-time use masks, you could, get creative and write something cool on your mask. You could, jazz it up since it has more material that you could write with. But again, I can use it as an eye pillow or, an eye covering to cover my eyes. Because what happens is when there is more of that dim light, that activates our parasympathetic nervous system of rest and digest, which makes us feel more calm and cool. So if we're overheated, if we're stressed out, if we have anxiety, we're in our sympathetic nervous system of fight or flight. So we're not feeling cool. So just by changing the atmosphere, changing the environment, but with the light, right? Because sometimes, you might not be able to close the window fully. So you could use an eye pillow or you could fold up a towel. You can get creative, but by dimming the light, that activates that parasympathetic nervous system, which also gets activated when you take that deep breath, because the little nerve endings at the bottom of your belly sends the signal to our body to come to calm just through breathing. So creating your own eye pillow for relaxation can be super beneficial when it comes to practicing self-care, when we take good care of our body, when we take good care of our mind, because it is all connected. So again, that's a fun craft. I like to call them the heartwork crafts, to come to relaxation. Another way you can practice self-care is by creating your own salt or sugar scrubs. And that's really important because you can use them on your hands and your feet, and they help to exfoliate our body. So that means it gets rid of all the dead skin cells, especially now that we've been washing our hands more. You might find that your hands are drying out, especially, during the pandemic, washing our hands more, hand sanitizing more. So we are going to learn how to create our own hand and feet scrubs that you could also use for your feet. So to make your own salt scrub, I like to use the Himalayan salt, which in just a few moments, we're going to go on a virtual field trips to the breathing rooms in Shrewsbury, New Jersey, because they have a room that is filled with 6,000 pounds of this Himalayan salt. So it's a great self-care practice where you can go to the breathing rooms and sit in a lounge chair or a hammock, and the floor is filled with the Himalayan salt. It's kind of like an indoor beach, almost like sand. And there's almost 2,000 blocks or bricks of the Himalayan sea salt that creates the room. And you just sit there and relax. So that's a really fun way to practice self-care, which I will share with you a video that I made when I went to the breathing rooms. But we can make our own breathing rooms experience using salt. So I found the pink Himalayan sea salt already chopped up in the fine salt at BJ's. They sell it just like this, and you can cook with this salt, and Himalayan salt is good for our lungs. But any kind of salt, when we're using it on our hands, helps to exfoliate our skin. So it takes off all the dry skin cells and makes our hands feel really soft, no matter what kind of salt you can do. So of course you can do this activity even if you don't have Himalayan sea salt. And I got this from Trader Joe's, but you can practice mindfulness when you go to the grocery store to see if you can find the Himalayan sea salt. And I've also found this at Marshall's. They make this Himalayan salt, but they infuse it with rose hibiscus, and this is for the bath. So I have made, hand scrubs with this as well. Again, you're going to notice it's all different shapes and sizes. This bag that I'm going to use for our hand scrub, I got from the dollar store, and it's a little bit smaller if we compare and contrast to notice the difference between the salt in this jar and the salt in this one. So again, you never know what you can find when you go to the local stores. And to make your own hand scrub, I'm going to use a Ziploc bag, or maybe you have a jar or, any kind of container. And I'm going to carefully pour the salt in the bag. And again, you can see, so I just have that much salt in the Ziploc bag. And then I'm going to add a carrier oil, an oil you cook with. And in Ayurveda, the sister science of yoga, coconut oil is really good for our body. It helps to nourish our skin. It makes it soft. It is also good to cook with as well. It helps our joints. So you can buy refractionated coconut oil, meaning it's always in a liquid. So we're going to add a couple drops of the carrier oil to our salt, or you can also find it at the store. It might look like a solid. So we can compare and contrast. These are both coconut oil packets. I also got these from Trader Joe's. This is a coconut packet as a solid at room temperature, and this one is at a liquid. So if you were to put this on the stove when you're cooking, it's going to turn clear, just like this. So these are convenient. I got these at Trader Joe's. They're little packets of coconut oil, so you can take them on the go. Again, you could use any oil you cook with, canola oil, vegetable oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil, olive oil. So there's so many different carrier oils that you can use for your own hand scrub. So I can also add in essential oils, because essential oils are also great for our skin, that helps to nourish it. So the fruits, so any citrus fruit, so orange, lemon. Also, I have here citrus fresh. That's a blend of lemon and orange and tangerine and spearmint. They help to, again, nourish our skin. They support us with immunity. So again, when we're, washing our hands so much, we can infuse some of the citrus fruits essential oils in our little hand scrub. Other essential oils that are great for our skin: tea tree oil. Along with the woods, we have myrrh, which is also good for our skin, cedarwood, and frankincense. So these are also more earthy smells. Again, if we were all together, we could smell the difference between each essential oil scent. Sometimes you might love a scent, sometimes you might not, and that's okay. And again, lavender is also really great for our skin as well. So lavender has so many different benefits. So we could add in any of these essential oils, and always just one drop, because one drop goes a long way, because these are really strong. Again, these are made from plant positive power. So it's optional of which smells you wanted to add, which scents you wanted to add. And then again, I can practice mindfulness. What do I notice? What do I see? I can, have my hand in. What does it feel like? Kind of reminds me of being at the beach with the sand. And next, I'm going to add in a drop of the carrier oil. So I'm using coconut oil. So again, in my plastic bag, I'm going to add in a couple drops of the coconut oil. And then I'm going to make sure that I zip it up. And then, almost like you're making slime, you're going to rub it up, and you're going to start to notice that the oil turns the salt a little darker color. So again, this can be a sensory experience. Notice what you feel. What does it remind you of? What does it smell like? It might smell like you're baking cookies, because again, you need salt and oil when you're baking a cake or cookies or any kind of, recipe that you're following. And then you're going to see how the oil and the salt mix together. And then what you will do is you can either keep your hand in the bag as you know, play with it on your hands. You could also, you know, rub both hands together. I'm just using my other hand because I need it for the computer and I don't want to get it all oily. But again, I can massage my hands and I can play with it. I could also use these on my feet. So if I wanted to put my foot in here, I could. Sometimes a bigger Ziploc bag might be better to add your foot. So you can really get creative. And again, you can see it looks like, you know, I'm at the beach. So you can make your salt scrub as, you know, unique as you'd like it to be. So again, just being mindful if there's any allergies, you know, making it, you know, best for you or the person that you're making it for. Another scrub that you could use if you didn't have the salt, again, that's Himalayan salt, you could use sugar. And here I have organic coconut palm sugar. Again, with coconuts, they're really good for our body, good for our mind. Just like I did with the salt, I can open up my Ziploc bag and pour in some coconut sugar. Again, you can use any kind of sugar that you have at home. Pouring in some sugar. And again, practicing mindfulness. What do I notice? What do I see? What do I smell? Right. And here's the coconut sugar. All right. And then just like with the salt scrub, I'm going to add in some coconut oil and it's going to change how the sugar looks. And again, always make sure that you zip it up and then you shake it up and you mix it around. You can rub it in your hands together. You can also practice mudras with your scrubs. So again, mudras are yoga of the hands. Some of the ones that are connected to the rainbow, we have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple. So you could do those mudras as you have your salt and sugar scrub. So you can notice how it changed. We can, again, compare and contrast. What do we notice? What do we see? What do we feel using our senses? And just like I did with the salt scrub, I can use the sugar on my hand. I can rub it together. And again, I can notice, what do I see? Here's the coconut oil and the coconut sugar. So again, using our senses as a way to practice mindfulness. You could also add in a drop of ginger to your hands, as that's another great oil, great spice that helps to warm our hands. So you might want to do that more in the winter time, right? When it's cold out and you're wearing mittens or gloves and your hands feel really cold, the ginger will stimulate the blood. So it helps to, you know, get our blood flowing. So sometimes in the summer, you might not want to add extra heat. So it might be better to use a different essential oil. But if you wanted to use, you know, ginger, if you didn't have the ginger oil, you could always use the ginger spice from your cupboard. You could mix and match your sugar and salt together. So again, sugar and salt are more of a coarse material. So we'd only use them on our hands and our feet. We wouldn't want to rub this on our face because it'd be very harsh, almost like it feels like it's scratching your face. If you were going to do this as a facial, you could use almonds, so those nuts, and put them in a blender and blend them up so that they look just like the salt and the sugar. And then if you mix that with honey and some milk, whether it's plant-based milk or cow's milk, you can have that on your face. It's much softer. It's just more gentle. So that you could use on your face. I don't recommend your salt and your sugar on your face. So just be mindful of that. And again, you can use any type of salt, any type of sugar, any type of carrier oil for your own self-care practice, to make your own self-care spa at home. And again, you know, I made that with a Ziploc bag using the Himalayan salt, the coconut sugar, and the coconut oil. So you can get creative, see what you have in the kitchen to mindfully make your own hand scrubs because our hands are connected to our heart. So we want to stay healthy, through all parts of our body. Another way you can use the Himalayan salt and kind of make your own breathing rooms, which we're about to go on our virtual field trip. I took an old shoebox and I upcycled the shoebox here, as you can see. And then I poured in all the different types of the Himalayan salt. So I sprinkled in some of the bath salts. Again, these are just bigger and it has that rose infused scent. It almost smells like roses. Then I added in the really fine pink salt. So again, I didn't need a grinder for that. This you could actually cook with. And this is the same. As you can see, when I use the grinder, the salt comes out. Almost looks like snow. I know it's a little hard to see over Zoom, but this is another way I can add the salt. This box, I wouldn't add any oil to it. I just simply have a dry box of the salt to replicate the breathing rooms, which we're about to go to on our virtual field trip. So you would just, rest your feet in here. You could stand in a mountain pose if that made you feel better. But this is simply the dry salt. And again, the Himalayan salt, it helps to, have us breathe better. It purifies the lungs. It's really good for our body. So if you have a shoebox or maybe a bigger container, you could use this as a Himalayan salt box for, your feet, or you could also use your hands and play with it. Again, this is a nice sensory activity. Again, this one does not have the carrier oil to it. So another way to practice self-care. And now I'm going to share my screen and we are virtually going to check out the breathing rooms, another way to practice self-care, whether you're practicing self-care at home or you treat yourself and you get to go outside of your home to practice self-care. So I'm going to share my screen. And here is our mindful walk at the breathing rooms in Shrewsbury, New Jersey to their Himalayan salt room. Namaste, Green Wave, it's Nasimi. And today we are on a virtual field trip to the breathing rooms in Shrewsbury, New Jersey. And we are mindfully going to walk through the Himalayan sea salt room. And there are 6,700 pounds of Himalayan salt pebbles in this room. If you've ever cut with pink salt crystals, you may be familiar with them. You can find them at your local grocery store. But the Himalayan salt helps to cleanse our body, cleanse our mind. It's antifungal, it's anti-inflammatory. It helps our body's immunity to stay healthy and strong, physically and mentally. Because just by breathing in all of this salt, it tunes us into our parasympathetic nervous system of rest and digest. So when we're stressed out, we're in that sympathetic nervous system of fight or flight. So just by sitting in a lounge chair or on the hammock and breathing in all of this sea salt of the Himalayan salt, you are cleansing your body and cleansing your mind. You'll notice there are these salt bricks that are in this room, and there are 2,112 salt bricks on the perimeter of this room. So we can even just mindfully notice the difference between each block, each brick. It's pretty neat. So we are going to mindfully walk around this Himalayan sea salt room. And you can always create your own little Himalayan sea salt box by, if you get sea salt from the store, place it in a shoebox or a container, and then place your feet in there. You can create your own little Himalayan salt room wherever you are. So together we are mindfully going to walk one step at a time, one breath at a time. Noticing, observing all of the Himalayan salt in this room as we breathe in and breathe out, relaxing our body, relaxing our minds, feeling so calm, so cool. Just noticing what we see, observing one step at a time, one breath at a time, breathing in, breathing out. And there are 6,700 pounds of the salt. So it's just like you're at the beach. As you can see, there's my foot right in the Himalayan salt. So again, this is cleansing our body, cleansing our minds, one step at a time, one breath at a time. What do you notice? And we can cultivate this mindfulness no matter where we are. When we move with intention, when we breathe, awareness. Just by breathing calms the nervous system. More moments, mindfully walking around the Himalayan salt room, here at the breathing rooms, noticing all the different salt blocks and bricks, noticing what looks similar, what looks different. And if you were to come here with your family, all you do is just sit and breathe. Take 10 more seconds, just mindfully walking around, feeling the salts, cleansing the body, cleansing the mind. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that was our mindful walk at the breathing rooms. And then I have one other video at the breathing rooms where we can breathe, because breathing is a self-care practice. So whether you breathe when you're making your salt or sugar scrubs, or maybe you're breathing with your feet in your own Himalayan salt sandbox by using, a shoebox or whatever kind of box you have. Again, our breath is our natural way to practice self-care. So feel free to make yourself comfy and breathe together at the breathing rooms. Namaste, Rename. It's Miss Amy, and today we are on a virtual field trip to the breathing rooms in Shrewsbury, New Jersey, to breathe in the Himalayan salt room. So you may be familiar with Himalayan salt because you can actually cook with it. You can find this at your local grocery store. And we are among 6,700 pounds of Himalayan salt pebbles, which is pretty cool. And the walls are filled of the salt bricks, where there are 2,112 salt bricks around this room. And just by breathing in all of this salt air, it's cleansing our respiratory system. So it's anti-inflammatory, it's antifungal, and it just clears out anything that we no longer need in our body to give us more clarity, so we can breathe better, we can learn better, and reach our full potential. So if you want to make your own Himalayan salt sandbox, you can get some salt at the store and then fill a shoebox or container with the salt, and then rest your feet in your salt box, just like my feet right now. You can cover your feet in the Himalayan salt pebbles and Our feet have the biggest pores in them. So our body is soaking up all of the nutrients from the salt to, again, cleanse our body and help our immune system. So it's pretty awesome with, again, Himalayan salt that you can find at your local grocery store. So today, we are going to breathe together. And if you ever come to the breathing rooms, when you come to the Himalayan sea salt room, you can either relax and breathe in this hammock, or there's also lounge chairs. So you can take your Shavasana, your final relaxation pose in yoga, or whatever position that makes you feel comfortable. So together, we're going to breathe in and breathe out. We're going to practice a meditation technique called Apajapa, which is just our awareness of our breath. So whether you have your hands on your belly to feel your belly rise and fall, or simply have your hands in your lap or in mudra, yoga of your hands, just going to breathe in all of this beautiful Himalayan salt energy together on the spiritual field trip. 6,700 pounds of salt. It's like an indoor beach right here, right now. Breathing in and breathing out. Right now, taking nice deep breaths. Apajapa, this awareness of our breath. And clearing out any clouds in the way of our sunshine. Because the sun always shines even on a cloudy day. So it's okay if we have these clouds in our mind. It's okay. But our breath helps us to navigate through those thoughts and feelings with our emotions. So right now, closing your eyes or keeping them open, observing and creating this awareness to your breath. Because your breath is your power. And no matter where you go, we're always breathing. Cleansing the body with your breath, just like the salt is cleansing our body and our mind as we breathe in and breathe out. Just relaxing. And salt takes us from the sympathetic nervous system of fight or flight, so when we're stressed out or worried, to the parasympathetic nervous system of rest and digest, to calm and cool the body. Taking a few more nice deep breaths, breathing in, breathing out, clearing out those clouds, letting your sun shine. Apajapa, awareness of your breath. Create self-awareness, supports us with self-management. 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so that is our breathing at the breathing rooms, because again, just by tuning into our breath, being present, being aware with it is a practice of self-care. So really you can be kind to yourself no matter where you go. So now we're going to learn a few more self-care techniques. Namaste, Green Wave, it's Nassini, and today we are going to practice self-care. We are going to learn a variety of ways to practice ways to take care of ourselves. And I like to call self-care practicing self-kindness. So doing one thing each day that brings you joy, because health is wealth. So self-care begins in our mind, because our brain is the most powerful muscle in our body, and the thoughts we think are powerful. So there's this book called The Hidden Messages in Water by Masaru Emoto, and he was a scientist that did an experiment. He took 2 bottles of water, and 1 bottle of water he said all positive words to, and the other bottle of water said all negative words to. And then took both of the water bottles and froze them in the freezer so the liquid turned into a solid. And then using a microscope, the scientists examined the molecules of the water. And what he discovered was the connection between our thoughts and our words and our body, because our body is made up of 75% of water. And in this book, it shows his discoveries. So the water with all the positive words, the crystal formation in the molecules, the molecular format, turned into these beautiful crystals, almost looks like a snowflake. And then the negative bottle of water, the molecules did not come out looking like the beautiful crystals in the positive one. So right now we can compare and contrast. What do we notice between the negative bottle and the positive bottle? So this just goes to show how our thoughts, our words matter. They can really make a difference in our whole way that we practice our day-to-day activities. So it's really important to practice mindfulness with the thoughts that we think, because self-care begins in our mind with our thoughts. So are we speaking kind words to ourselves? So if you're thinking anything negative as I can't do that, I'm not good enough, we want to change that mindset to something positive. I can do that. I can try. I am smart. I am brave. Because our thoughts are powerful, as our brain is the most powerful muscle in our body. And our brain has that neuroplasticity, so it can change. And remember, our body is made up of water, so about 75%. So we want our water molecules to be those snowflakes and not, anything negative. So based on this book, you can conduct your own experiment to see the power of your words with something physical, with a solid. So for our experiment today, we are going to use rice. So I followed the directions from the box of rice, and I cooked a pot of rice here, and we're going to use that for our experiment. But first, I'm going to share my screen to go over the scientific method, and I've shared these slides with you in our Google Classroom. So feel free whenever you're watching this video, if you decide to create your own experiment. And even if you don't have rice, you could do this with bread, you could do this with plants. So you can get creative of how, what object or you want to use with, but we always want to follow the scientific method. So I am going to share my screen. And here we have the scientific method. So we're just going to view it a little bit bigger so we all can see. And you'll learn more about this as you go through the years in middle school and high school. But this is scientific method of how we conduct an experiment. So you always want to have a question. So you could have a question such as, do our words affect our body? And then you always want to have a hypothesis. So what is the purpose of your experiment? What is your question? What are you testing? So for example, I wrote for my hypothesis, if you were going to do this experiment over a 3-week period, I think that after 3 weeks, the jar labeled with the positive words will have life in it, and the jar labeled with the negative words will have mold in it, because we are going to write positive and negative words on our jars, but I'll explain that in a moment. Then you also want to list your materials. So the materials that I'm using today are an 8-ounce mason jar. That's a half pint, a half a cup of lavender infused rice, a half a cup of water, a sticky label, and a Sharpie. And then in the procedure, I write out my directions step by step. So again, you're welcome to do it in a similar format, or maybe you change it up to use what you have. And then over here are your observations, which you would record over time. So what did you notice? So you could always include the date as well. So you would include the date and just notice. I noticed that the rice is white. I noticed that the rice is turning a different color. I noticed that, it might have a smell to it, right? So we can also use our senses when it comes to observation. So your observations will be different based on, the materials that you're using. So that is up to you to do. And then the conclusion, you're going to summarize your observations and data at the end of the experiment. Was your hypothesis correct? What would you do differently? So our conclusion, just as if you were writing an essay, right? We have our beginning, our introduction, our middle, the body, and the end, the conclusion, just summing up what you did. Was your hypothesis, your question correct? What did you learn? What would you do differently? So again, it's another way for self-reflection. So again, everyone has that in your Google Classroom, and you can always click, if you want to do this a few times, click File, make a copy, and you can do the entire presentation. And then you can always use this throughout the school year as well. So I'm going to stop my share. And now I'm going to show you how you can conduct your experiment. So I'm using 3 jars because we want one jar to be what we compare it to. So we have a control. So everything needs to be the same when we're conducting the experiment. So as you can see here, I have 3 jars. And in each of these jars, I'm going to measure a half a cup of the rice, and then I'm going to pour in a half a cup of water. So it is equal for all of the jars. Okay, so I have to open up each jar. And if you don't have a jar, you could always find a recycled bottle or, get creative. And then I'm going to measure a little math and science. They go hand in hand. So I'm going to scoop the rice. And this is lavender infused rice because this was the rice that I've also used when I'm making eye pillows, which I will show you also in a little bit, because eye pillows are another practice of self-care for relaxation. They help us to tune into our parasympathetic nervous system of rest and digest. So here I have a half a cup of the rice, and I'm going to mindfully pour into this jar. One fell out. Oh no, some of that's fallen out. Rice that fell out, I'm just going to pick up. It's popped out. And again, we're not eating this rice, so it's okay to use it if it fell on the table. That happens sometimes, but again, we want to practice mindfulness. And then I'm just going to push it down with my spoon. So that is 1 jar of a half a cup of rice. We need to do that 3 more times. So again, I have my measuring cup, a half a cup. I'm going to scoop in mindfully the rice. So again, everything is even. Again, this is a way to practice mindfulness when it comes to math and science, and even cooking and baking. We want to make sure that we are accurate. And then I'm going to put it in the next jar. So it's easier to do the spoon because the rice was sticky because I put the rice in the refrigerator after I cooked it. Again, any of the rice that have fallen out, again, because we are not eating this rice, we can pick it up from the table. And again, I'm just going to scoop it down so there's room for the water. And then for our final jar, jar number 3, because again, 1 jar will be our positive jar, and we're going to write positive words on the label. Then we're going to have a negative jar where we're going to write negative words or phrases. And then we're going to have 1 jar that we're not going to put any labels on. We're going to leave it alone. So we have something to compare and contrast to. So now I'm going to scoop in the final jar of the half 1/2 cup of rice. And some of the rice hopped out. I think it's just because it's a little sticky from after I cooked it. Again, I put it in the refrigerator because I didn't do the experiment right away. I cooked it first, so it's a little sticky. So I have all 3 jars with 1/2 cup of rice. And now I'm going to fill this with water. So we're going to do this 3 times. So we're going to put 1/2 cup of water in this jar. And then we're going to put, again, 1/2 cup of water in the next jar. And then our last 1/2 cup of water will go in the other jar. All right. So they're all even. They've all had 1/2 cup of rice and 1/2 cup of water. Now I'm going to put the lids on the jars. And then using labels and a Sharpie, if you don't have a label, you could always use a piece of paper. First, I'm going to write the word positive. And I'm going to put it right here so we can see this is going to be our positive jar. This will be our neutral. We're not going to put any labels, any words on it. And then our final jar, we are going to write negative. And now I'm going to write positive words and negative words on another label. So a positive word can be, I am smart. I am brave. Put on my sticky, get my sticky label. And you can put as many as you'd like. You can also, talk to the jar. So I'm going to put the other sticky label on the back of it so we have more room. So there's the I am brave. But along with writing the labels, you could also talk to each jar each day. Just repeat the affirmations, to repeat these mantras. And notice if using your voice also affects the rice as well. So again, you would include that in your instructions for your scientific method. And now I'm going to write some negative words on the other label. So write, I can't do this. We could write, I'm not good enough. So again, we have our negative, and you can include as many as you want. That one. The other one on the back. So I added one to the back. So you can, add as many labels as you'd like, as many positive and negative words. And then you're going to put it in a safe place. So maybe you put it by the windowsill, maybe you put it on a bookshelf, but you want to put it in a place that no one is going to touch it, because you want to keep all 3 jars in the same spot. So when you're, reporting your observations, they're all in the same area so that it's equal, so that we can really, study and observe and collect our data to test our hypothesis. So I hope you try out this experiment. Again, if you don't have rice, you could always, take a piece of bread and have 3 pieces of bread. You could do this with talking to plants, but you can get creative as you'd like. And then be sure you write about your experience. Again, in Seesaw, there is a spot for self-reflection. So again, this shows us that our thoughts and our body are connected. So we want to make sure that we're practicing self-care in our mind, with our words, with our thoughts, and then that, affects our action. So it's really important to be mindful of our language. So another way to practice self-care can be using cucumbers. So these are cucumbers that are grown from my garden. And you can notice that they're all different shapes and sizes. So again, you can practice mindfulness by noticing the shape, the size, the texture, the colors of the different cucumbers. And again, cucumbers are healthy vegetables. They're filled with a lot of water, and they help to replenish our body. They help to hydrate us. So cucumbers are really important to eat, especially during the summertime. In the sister science of yoga called Ayurveda, this is Pitta season, and cucumbers are pitta pacifying, meaning they're going to cool down that heat, that fire. So you can just cut up cucumbers to eat as a healthy snack. Maybe you dip them in hummus or ranch dressing, or, pickles are made out of cucumbers. So maybe you create your own pickles from cucumbers. Another way we can create a self-care, hydrating, refreshing water is by cutting up a cucumber and putting it in our water. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to take 1 cucumber, and I am going to mindfully cut the ends off. And then again, I'm going to carefully cut the cucumbers. And again, practicing mindfulness using my focus, noticing the shape, noticing the smell, noticing the texture, because cucumbers sometimes have these little prickly things on their skin. So just being careful to, not get hurt yourself, especially when you're using a knife as well. So I'm just going to turn that for safety reasons. And then again, we can practice mindfulness by noticing what's similar, what's different in the shape. And you can see the water. Again, they have a lot of water, so they're good for cooling down our body. And then I have here my container, my pitcher, and I'm going to pour a water bottle. Again, mindfully pouring. And again, if you didn't have a pitcher, you could use, a regular cup or, water bottle, whatever you have, use what you have. And then I'm going to put the cucumbers in the water. And again, you can notice how they look, how they're floating, just like that. And then I'm going to put the lid on. And of course, I could add more water to this. And then I'm going to keep it in the refrigerator overnight. So the cucumbers are going to infuse the water, almost similar to if you've had any flavored water. This is a natural and healthy way to infuse your water. And again, it's going to have that cucumber hint to it. So you can try this at home. You could also add in some peppermint or some basil. You could add in lemon. You could cut up a lemon. You could cut up oranges. You could, cut up some citrus fruits, because citrus and cucumbers, they go really well together. And they're also, again, really good for self-care because they help to nourish the outside of our body as well as the inside of our body. So this is a great way to stay cool, to stay hydrated, especially in the summertime when we get overheated. And sometimes when our body gets overheated, our mind starts to get overheated with stress and anxiety and worries. So it's important to take a deep breath to bring us back to the moment, to naturally cool ourselves down with our breath, because you have everything you need to be your successful self, the best you can be. So again, cucumbers are fun to use. Again, I grow these in my garden. Again, we can notice, the texture, the colors, just comparing and contrasting one to the other. Again, just noticing. You could do this with any of your vegetables. So it's a great way to, again, use healthy foods for not only the inside of your body, but also for the outside of your body. So again, a nice, simple way to practice self-care. I also have these wipes that I got from Trader Joe's. They're cucumber and citrus face and body wipes. So again, creating your own home self-care spa. This is a simple, easy way, and you can notice on the package, we see a cucumber and we see a citrus fruit. Again, citrus fruits are lemons, oranges, grapefruits, and always read the labels, because if you had any allergies, then you wouldn't want to use these. But reading the labels, it says infused with citrus and cucumber extracts. These ultra soft face and body wipes gently cleanse and effectively remove dirt and oil. Citrus refines the skin's texture, while cucumber soothes and hydrates. These wipes are perfect for any and every on-the-go need, kids' sticky hands, removing makeup, or simply a quick refreshing cleanse. So to use it, and again, using mindfulness, using our sense of smell. So you can notice I smell both the cucumber and the citrus. Just to show you too, there's oil from Young Living called Citrus Fruits. So this reminds me of the wipes. And this one is blended with orange, tangerine, grapefruit, lemon, mandarin orange, spearmint. So this is a blend of the essential oils that smell similar to these wipes, but you could also, put this on your skin to make your skin nice and healthy. Again, you would always mix this with a carrier oil, oils you cook with, such as coconut oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, sunflower seed oil, any oils you cook with, vegetable oil, canola oil. So this is another, way you can use citrus fruit. But this is great because Trader Joe's already has it as a wipe. So I just take one out, and it looks like, baby wipe. And you can clean down your face to remove any dirt or oil. Again, it hydrates our skin. It cleanses, our body, because our skin is our biggest organ. So it's really important to take good care of it. So then you can wipe down your face when it gets really hot out. This cools down the body. You could make your own, just how I made the cucumber infused water. You could take paper towels and then soak that in the, I wouldn't drink that water, but you could infuse the water with the cucumbers and then soak your paper towels in, and you could make your own. You could also add, a drop of the citrus fresh or orange oil or tangerine oil or lemon. Any of the citrus fruits are going to help our skin. So again, a way to practice self-care, to bring the spa to you, and then it cleanses off all the dirt. So again, you can see all the, the dirt and the sweat, it gets off. So it keeps our skin nice and healthy. And sometimes when you go to a spa too, you can put cucumbers on your eyes. So here I, can cut the cucumbers. And this is easier to do if you were laying down on the floor, on a yoga mat, on the couch, on your bed. But I'll do my best to show you just by sitting up. But I would always close my eyes, and then you can press the cucumbers on your eyes and then relax. So you could, do this as a practice of self-care. If you didn't want to put it on your eyes, you could cut up more cucumbers and then rest them on your head. That also feels nice and cooling. You could put them on your cheeks. So again, you could get creative depending on the size of your cucumber. So you're going to get more cucumbers, the longer the cucumber is, or again, using what you have. So using the cucumbers on our eyes is a great way to practice self-care. Again, this hydrates our body, hydrates our mind to keep us calm and cool. So another way you can use cucumbers as a home self-care spa. All right. So we've learned so much about practicing self-care. And you can also think of self-care as I'm saying no to you and yes to me. So just carving out time for yourself. Sometimes, we're always doing things to please other people. So it's just really important that we take time to, practice self-care, to be kind to ourselves through our thoughts, through our words, and through our actions, because health is wealth. And it's so important to take good care of our body and our mind because it is all connected. So feel free to self reflect and share if you've tried any of these self care activities. There is a spot on Seesaw. You can share it in our Google Classroom because, again, we can learn from each other and get inspired from our different self care techniques and designing your own tools. So I can't wait to see what you create. So remember, take time each day to practice self care. You can always practice just by breathing because your breath is your power. And no matter where you go, you always have your breath. So let's all take a nice deep breath. Breathe it in, breathe it out. Go Green Wave. Namaste.